All right, hello everyone. Here we are back for a tutorial here, Oasis, hole number 7. Now this is definitely the most challenging of the holes, and you'll usually require a driver for this hole. You can get away with a sniper, and sometimes pull it off. It's usually a skip shot to where you'd bounce on, say, here and kind of bounce it along. It's very, very challenging to get the bounces very consistently over all conditions. I never even attempt it. When this hole shows up, I'll pretty much only play it one way, and I'll talk about that way. It's also, in itself very, very challenging. But I'll try to land it on this surface right here. It's just barely in this rough. You can see this darker patch of rough right here, and then we'll get our second bounce to hit this fringe or fairway, and then it'll just trickle down through here. And that's pretty much the only way that I'll play it, because the times that I do pull it off, it's very, very challenging to beat. And there's almost no win scenario where you're going to be able to play a sniper very consistent or anything. You'll usually, just try to hop it along here, maybe trickle it through this rough, or just catch this fairway just right to hop it up towards the hole. However, with a perfect ball on the driver, you're going to give yourself a very good chance to roll this out close every time. As long as you hit perfect. And if you miss your perfect, that's the only problem. That's where you potentially end up, costing yourself this hole. But the good news about this one is it's very, very challenging for everybody. It's not just you that it's challenging for. So to pull this one off, it's going to, definitely be a challenge no matter what. So with the driver, what I'll typically do in the tailwind situation is I'll typically use min club. Now I usually try to talk in terms of max. However, this hole specifically is kind of a difference. Now, one of the things that I can do is I can give you what that equivalence is in terms of max. So min club here, on a 5 mile per hour, 3.0 rings. So equivalently, that is minus 25%. So min is the same as max minus 25%. And that's what I'll use for tailwind. For side wind, I will use, I'll usually come in just a little bit on that, because it's getting the adjustments getting a little bit longer. So maybe I would use not quite mid number, but if you want to talk in terms of max, maybe I'll do max minus 15%, for example. I'm never really going to get to max for this adjustment. There's very few times that I'll actually use a max ring adjustment. It would have to be a headwind that's very, very strong. So even for this case, I'm probably going to use probably max minus 10, but it could range to be just max. So between minus 10 to 0, just if it gets large enough. So for instance, if it was up around a 12, for example, I might maybe use a max for my adjustment, but the chances that it's going to get up that large are going to be very, very small. So that's basically the way that I go about doing this. One of the things that's nice, it's nice to have side spin balls. So having at least 2 side spin for this tour is going to be highly favorable. And what I'll usually use is about 1 backspin. So here's my backspin that I'll be using, and I'll use about 1. So in the tailwind case, you might need to crank that up, get it up to about 1.5, 1.25, 1.25. And similarly, for the headwind, you're going to need to take off. You might want to use maybe 0.5, 0.75 maybe 0.75. You might not need to ever go less than 0.75. It's all about the land zone for this one. So it might be very, very challenging to pull off. You're also going to need to pretty much use full side spin, no matter what, whether it's 2, 3, 1. And you'll just have to increase the amount that you curl based off of that value. So for instance, if this was my ball circle right here, over here, I might curl here, here, or here, depending on how good my side spin ball is. So if I have a side spin of 3, I might pull it over to this part of the screen. If I have a side spin of 2, I might pull it over to here. And if I have only a 1 side spin, then I might pull it over to the right-hand side of the screen. In addition to these adjustments. Now, another thing that you got to be careful of is, for example, if I'm pulling down at this angle, it's going to pull down to a lower surface. It's kind of the only direction that really messes with your adjustment. So you do got to be a little bit careful. And that's, specifically where you'll definitely want to watch this. And you can see this is the tailwind case where I was kind of talking about why I go min. And that's pretty much why, because I end up pulling down to this lower surface. I won't be able to go any more rings than min. So definitely a very, very challenging hole. One of the things that you might want to check out is you'll want to check out my Desert Open tournament from this hole. And you can see me pull it off with the driver. It doesn't matter if you have to do it with extra mile, whatever, as long as your driver has that one spin. So, let's talk about clubs here in terms of, if I have a rock, for example. So, ideally, I'd really like to have like a rock 6 for this hole, but it might make things hard because you might not have it for this tour. Similarly, QB, these are almost equal priorities as to which one you'll want, and you won't need a very large one as well. You'll just need kind of a QB6 as well. Alternatively, your next option will be extra mile, or that probably wouldn't be your best. Let's go and we'll write in some Thor hammer, as long as you have, for example, a 2, you should be good to go. And similarly with a puck, you won't need to have more than an unlocked, and you'll just use whatever your adjustments are. But you can still pull this off even with extra mile. So extra mile 5, for example. So this will kind of be the priority in terms of how you want to play this hole, would be with one of these suggestions in this priority. And you'll just use, whatever, it doesn't matter what club you're using. It's really kind of irrelevant. You'll just need perfect ball either way. And you'll just use these, min numbers, for example, and hopefully be able to, you won't be able to use the ball guide because very few of these, chances are you're probably going to be using one of these 3 sets for tour play, which is going to have very limited ball guide. So with the very limited ball guide, you just have to kind of trust your land zone and that you have this backspin applied and that you actually pull off this landing zone. But there's no reason that you can't pull it off and be able to pull this off. But it is going to be, very, very, very challenging shot to do. But even, this fairway hop equally has its challenges, and almost everybody that I see play it rolls off the back of the green here. So very, very challenging shot. Good luck, and see you guys on the next one.